Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating mystery that is quite literally unfolding right inside your own head every single day. We're going to explore the hidden mechanics of human memory and hopefully uncover exactly why your brain absolutely insists on holding on to the most seemingly useless, random details from your past.
So, I want you to just think for a second. Have you ever been, just sitting at your desk, going about your normal Tuesday, when suddenly, completely out of nowhere, you get this flash of a totally random, meaningless memory from a decade ago? Maybe it's a terrible commercial jingle or, an awkward wave you gave a stranger at the grocery store. You just sit there, staring at the ceiling, asking yourself, why do I even remember this?
Because it's never just a vague feeling, is it? It's always hyper-specific. We're talking about a certain table at a restaurant from 10 years ago, or maybe a bright red chair sitting in the corner. The exact smell of the room, or even where you were standing when you overheard some totally random snippet of conversation. Why on earth does your brain dedicate precious energy and storage space to preserving these tiny, disconnected fragments?
Well, what's really interesting about this concept is that the answer gives us a massive paradigm shift. Your brain isn't just, it's not just a mental hoarder, clinging on to the past for no reason. The reality is actually so much smarter. Simply put, your brain doesn't know the future. And because it cannot possibly predict what information is going to be vital tomorrow, it has to prepare for absolute uncertainty.
Think about it kind of like having two different operating systems running in your head. Let's say System A only remembers what is immediately and obviously important right in the moment. System B, on the other hand, snaps these rich, unfiltered details and snapshots of an entire experience. If you only ever relied on System A, you're going to run into a major problem. Why? Because the future has a really funny habit of making unexpected things important later on. Okay, let's walk through a quick scenario. Picture going to a brand new restaurant for the very first time. While you're there, you're absorbing a literal ton of data. The taste of the food, the price of the meal, the wait time, how hard it was to find parking, and maybe the ambient noise level of the dining room. Sitting there eating your dinner, it is completely impossible to know which of these specific details you might actually need a month down the road. But then the future arrives. A month later, a friend calls you up and they're in distress. They need to have an incredibly important, sensitive conversation with you, and they ask if you know a quiet place to meet. Boom! Suddenly that previously useless detail about the restaurant's noise level just lights up in your mind. That tiny piece of information, which seemed completely irrelevant at the time, has just become absolutely crucial to your decision-making.
This amazing mental time travel all boils down to a core cognitive function called episodic memory. In simple terms, this is your ability to remember specific events and experiences from your own life. It's basically the mental filing cabinet, where your brain stores not just the raw data, but the rich, textured scenes of what you've actually lived through.
And this brilliantly illustrates the staggering difference between just knowing a cold, hard fact and recalling an actual episode. Remembering a fact is simply knowing, okay, restaurant X is expensive. But an episodic memory? That is remembering the full experience. Sitting at a table, hearing the rain tapping against the window, seeing the waiter rush by, and being totally annoyed by that loud group sitting nearby. It preserves the entire scene, the whole shebang. To actually see this in action, we've got some pretty groundbreaking research to look at. A truly fascinating 2026 study published in Nature Human Behaviour by researchers Jonathan Nicholas and Marcelo Mattar set out to test this exact phenomenon. They basically asked, do we actually use these rich, detailed memory episodes to navigate unexpected future decisions? And this wasn't just some fringe theory. The researchers designed a series of 5 incredibly rigorous experiments, testing a total of 535 participants. Their goal was to observe exactly how real people dig into their detailed memories when they're faced with completely unexpected choices. So picture this. In the experiment, participants encountered a bunch of different objects, and each object had multiple features, just like in real life. Like an apple might be red, round, sweet, and cost $2. A banana is yellow, long, sweet, and costs $1. The absolute brilliant part of this setup is that the participants were completely in the dark about which specific detail, whether it was color, shape, flavor, or price, they would actually be tested on later. And here is the core finding of the whole thing. The study showed that people relied heavily on episodic memories, especially when it was unclear at the beginning which information would eventually matter. When participants didn't know what the future demanded of them, their brains didn't just save a single fact. Nope. They preserved the whole episode so they could literally search through those details after the fact. Let's pull this back into the real world for a second and see how this plays out in our daily lives.
Think about meeting someone for the very first time at a really crowded party. You are subconsciously absorbing a dozen tiny details about this person. Their job, their hometown, their favorite band, the distinct sound of their laugh, or even just the title of a book they happen to be holding. You have absolutely no idea if you'll ever even cross paths with them again.
Right, so fast forward, say, 6 months. You're talking to a completely different friend, and they ask, "Hey, do you happen to know anyone who works in Chicago?" Instantly, you freeze. That totally random detail about the partygoer's hometown activates. You didn't actively memorize Chicago because you thought it was going to be on a test. You simply experienced the conversation, and later, when the future actually demanded it, that detail became incredibly useful.
So the crucial point is, I need to clear something up, because there's a really common myth that human memory operates like some kind of perfect 4K video recording in your head. It absolutely doesn't. What this research actually shows is that these detailed memories exist to support flexible decision-making. They give us a mental library to draw from when our environment demands something we totally didn't see coming.
It is so vital to remember that while human memory is a powerhouse of a tool, it's definitely not flawless. Memories can easily be distorted. They're often incomplete or heavily influenced by other experiences you have after the event. They are not some objective, perfect truth. The study isn't claiming that having a better memory equals perfect life decisions. It just highlights how creatively we use the fragments we do have to adapt.
When you kind of take a step back and look at it, the philosophical takeaway here is, well, it's actually really beautiful. In this strange, totally subconscious way, your brain is packing a toolkit for you every single day. By saving these seemingly random episodes, your brain is literally leaving information for a future version of you, without having any idea exactly what that future version will actually need to survive or thrive.
This completely flips how we should be viewing our own day-to-day experiences. The value of a memory isn't always obvious the second it's created. We really shouldn't judge an experience as useless just because it doesn't immediately serve a purpose today. Sometimes, its true value might only reveal itself months or even years down the road. Which basically brings us to our final thought. The very next time you get hit with a completely random flash of a memory, a red chair, a weird smell, a fleeting conversation from years ago, I want you to stop asking, "Why do I even remember this?" Instead, look at that brilliant hidden mechanic of your own mind and ask yourself this: what if I need it later? Because right now, your brain is carrying pieces of yesterday into whatever comes next. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.